G'day, Bomber fans. We're going to be taking a break from the Zach Merrett story. We're going to be distracting ourselves and talking about the draft because it is time for the monthly draft whiteboard. This is where I act as if Matt Rosa has me on the phone and is asking me to rank the draft prospects based on how badly I want the Bombers to pick them. This isn't a general draft power ranking, it's an Essendon specific power ranking. These guys aren't necessarily the best in my eyes, but they're the best fits for the Bombers. And let me tell you, a lot has changed with my whiteboard in the last month. It is changing quite a lot. There are some new faces in there, which is cool. So let's get into it. Here is Felix's Essendon draft whiteboard for the month of September. Okay, up the top, as it's going to be for pretty much the rest of the year, we've got Willem Dersma. If we had pick one, that is who I'd be taking without any questions asked. He is, and if the Dons are trying to trade up the order, it would be for him. So he is, for me, there is daylight between him and the rest. Nothing against CDT at 2. I think he's great, but you know, it's just that position that we don't need. We don't really need to get a ruck if we've got young Vigo. We don't need to trade up for a ruck at least. The way I see it, I wouldn't complain if the club tried to trade up for Dersma. If we spent multiple picks on him, I'd probably be a bit more worried about the club doing that for a ruckman in CDT. But Dersma is so clearly one. He is a great prospect. He is X-Factor, potential star, he's great. CDT is a really good and promising ruck, probably one of the best rucks I've seen come through the draft in years. But yeah, even with Draper going, I like our ruck stocks going forward with young Vigo. And in that case, I guess CDT is almost the least likely player here for Essendon to draft because he's going to be taken before our picks. He'll be gone very early, and we're not going to try and trade up for him, unlike we might do for Dersma. So yeah, CDT is probably the one that we won't be seeing in Essendon colours, even though he was a year off being in our academy, I believe, is what was said because of where his parents were born. So yeah, those two, they're clearly the best in the open pool. Then you've got Josh Lindsay. He is rusted into this range for me. What's actually good news for us is that Josh Lindsay is falling a bit in some orders. There are some thoughts that he may not be in that early batch if others continue to bolt around him. And Lindsay, to be fair, he's not a perfect draft prospect. I think his ceiling's probably a bit lower than those around him, and we haven't really seen him do a lot outside of his field kicking, but that left boot is great. Like, I think that's worth an early pick, especially for the Bombers, and that's why I've got him so high. I know some are falling out of love with Lindsay a little bit, but in a draft that lacks ball use, getting the best kick would be a huge bonus, and especially if you're the Bombers who have multiple picks to bank on. If we only had one top 10 pick, and Lindsay was available, but then you also had someone like a Greaves or a Roby or someone around him, you could argue a different case because of their upside, but I think when you've got 2, potentially 3 top 10 selections, if Lindsay's available, it's a no-brainer. I think he'd be great to bank on, and you'd think the club would act on that if he is around, because he is just a great kick of the footy. Okay, here is where it gets a little bit more funky, and I've probably gone very early here. That is entirely possible. But for those who don't know, there is a bolter in this year's draft called Sullivan Roby. I did a little video on him on my other channel, AFL 101, so go check that out. But he was playing club footy a couple of months ago for the Roeville Hawks. He only made his Talent League debut, I think, 8 games ago. But for the Eastern Rangers, he's something else. He is dominating, and he is a player that we have been lacking for a long time, that type of player. So I'll talk about him a lot on the channel, I reckon. But I recently spoke with his old club coach and his just members from the club because he came out of nowhere, this bloke, so I wanted to get a good idea of him. But he was a pretty skilled junior. He was cut from the Dandenong Stingrays a few years ago, and then over the space of 18 months, he had an unbelievable growth spurt. He was sitting at the late 170 centimeters a couple of years ago. He's now 192 and completely built with muscle. It completely changed the way he played because it was a completely different body shape that he grew into. He also just put heaps of time and effort into improving his conditioning and fitness and footy skills, and it shows. He is an absolute beast now. He just bullies those around him. Both him and Ollie Greaves at 4 and 5, they do that. They're really similar players in a lot of ways. Like right now, they are, their strength is probably their muscle. Like that's their main strength as a player. They're both huge. They're both really strong. Both use that strength really well. And sometimes that can be a bit of a worry for a prospect as to how they can get better against bigger bodies. Because ideally, you're looking at players with this build and finding weaknesses for them to improve on. So you can kind of find their ceiling a bit. But they have elements of their game outside of the contest. Both of them do. Greaves is really good with ball in hand, really productive with the footy, but I do think he needs to work on his two-way running a bit, and that's a big weakness, but it's one that's common in young draftees. Kako, his big weakness was his pressure last year, and look at him now. And Sullivan Roby, like I don't even know how you judge this guy. He has come out of nowhere. He's getting better and better each week. Some of the things he's been doing, he's just a pure footballer, one that is nowhere near complete. And that's fun. We don't know when this guy's going to stop developing because he's, that rapid rate of improvement improvement is just, you don't see that. The other week, he had a 40 disposal, 3-goal game, and that's crazy for someone who wasn't on that team or any team in that league at the start of the year. No one wanted him. His rate of improvement is crazy. It's hard to remember a bolter just this good and this late. He's almost in that range of too eye-catching to let go. There'll be clubs early in the draft who'll be looking at him, and if we have 3 picks, I would not bat an eye if one of them's used on Sullivan Roby. I know it's early. Is he going to be top 5 or top 10? Maybe not. I don't know. It's really hard to say, but I think he could go very, very high. And although you do have contest mids like Greaves and Dyson Sharp that you can probably bank on a bit more, they're more reliable options. I think Roby of the 3 is showing he's got the highest ceiling and the most room for improvement. There are the more levels he can go to, I reckon. And he's a hard-working kid too. From the chats I've had, I just know he would be a really good player out on the training track. At 6, we've got Xavier Taylor, key defender, a really mobile key defender, like early 190 centimeters, so not that big on muscle either. He wouldn't play on the best key forwards. Like, it's kind of more Jordan Ridley a bit, where he's impacting other contests. I had him this high last month. I'm not, like, I saw Cal Toomey bump him in the power rankings, but I think I had Taylor maybe even a spot higher than this last month, because I've always thought, or at least the last few months, that he is a perfect fit for Essendon. If we have 2 or 3 picks, Xavier Taylor is probably going to be picked up by the Bombers. And yes, it might be a bit of a bolt considering where some of the best mids are. Like if I'm ranking the open draft, he's outside my top 10, but that's because there are so many midfielders above him. And we're not going to be taking those midfielders. But I think, he's currently what we need. We've got multiple picks. If we can bank on a quality mid or 2 before him, then I would love seeing us bring in Xavier Taylor, because we need that key defensive depth. We need new blood in that zone. He would probably play given our injury issues. So this makes a lot of sense. I really wouldn't be surprised if Xavier Taylor is in Essendon colours at the end of the year. You've also got Sam Cumming, and it's annoying because all these players in this range, I want them. I wish we could walk away with both Roby and Greaves, but bringing both of them in doesn't make sense. I want Xavier Taylor. I want Sam Cumming. He is great. He's a little inside mid with a lot of heart. I've talked about him a lot last month, so I won't go on, but I think you guys would absolutely love him, and he'd be great to have around the club. Harley Barker, my boy, I definitely rate him higher than most, but if I'm Rosa, I'm looking at him too, even with that knee injury. Mitch Marsh is a key forward, really talented. I rate him very highly as well. But at 10, Jevon Philippou. So he is new here. Let's say a club takes Sullivan Roby before the Bombers, if he's in that range. If the Bombers have multiple picks early, would they consider using one on a project player like Jevon Philippou? So I think in this top 10, you've got 2 project players. One of them is Sullivan Roby, one of them is Jevon Philippou, where you don't know just where is the right value for them. You don't know if you're going too early by selecting them. Philippou is unbelievably crafty, so skilled, very raw. Like, the way I see it, he is a year behind on development. He just doesn't look ready for high quality footy right now, but his base is definitely there. And once he puts muscle on, once he gets familiar with his system and his role, I feel like he could be one of the players of this draft. Go back and have a look at some of his highlights at 18s level, because it just looks like a piss take out there. He does some really funky stuff on the footy. So yeah, that 10, as I said last month, it kind of depends on what is available. So if Dersma and CDT are taken early, Lindsay, Roby, Greaves are right in the mix. But if Dersma slips, it would mean that, if we select Dersma, Roby and Greaves would slip lower on our whiteboards, and we turn our next pick's attention to a Cumming or a Taylor. If Lindsay goes early, maybe someone with ball use like Jacob Farrow hops up the order. So it does depend on what's there. And I'll show my other whiteboard in a bit with the names outside of it. But yeah, just on this 10, some are pretty critical of the talent in this draft, because I guess they see headlines a lot and they see others say it's a weak draft. And I think in many ways it is a weak draft, but I don't think it's the top end talent that's the issue. I think it's definitely less than 2024 and probably 2023 as well, but those are very, very good drafts. And this one is a good draft, but it's come after 2 great drafts. It's also not as deep. I think the talent outside of the top 15 to 20 is not there as much. You're going to find less out of the draft in the later stages, but the early stages are definitely still good. And it's kind of like, I don't think clubs will try hard to trade into it, but I don't think clubs will really be wanting to trade out of it unless they got a star on the hook or something. So I think Essendon should be keeping early picks and using them. I think there is enough in this draft to get something out of it. The Bombers could definitely trade away. They could try and get into next year, but I don't think there's much point in that. I like a few of these players. And look, even in that top 10, right, on screen, if Essendon were to end up with Philippou, Marsh, and Barker, the bottom 3 of my whiteboard, I would be over the moon. That would be a great draft haul. I really like like those players. So, yeah, I think the Bombers are in a great position and a very uncertain one. It's tough to get a gauge on how our draft picks will go, which is fun because I think there are lots of good and different options. Gives me more to make videos about as well. Let's say, right, like before I get on to the other whiteboard, let's say we have 3 picks right now with Dersmer and CDT gone. If I'm choosing today from the next, I'd probably hope that one of them's Lindsay, one of them's Sullivan, Roby, and Xavier Taylor. That's a good way for you guys to understand what I want. Those 3 I like a lot, but I do also like quite a few others as well. It's a good draft. All right, and on the outside, here are some guys that I've considered throwing in there or could consider throwing in there. Jacob Farrow is probably the one on the verge for me. He's kind of that same... not build, same size-ish or frame as Roby and Greaves with less muscle. He's a taller mid or a defender. His highlight's not his contest work like them, it's his ball use. He's a really good kick. I'd probably like to see him play with a bit more grunt and intensity. I haven't really seen that from the games I've watched, but someone definitely to think about. I like Jacob Farrow a lot. I like Noah Hibbins-Hargraves. He's also great. Every year there are like draftees in the 15 to 20 range who you just know are going to be good. Like Joel Frazier was one of those, I think, where you see him taken and you're like, this guy's going to be good. It's just, can you justify picking him up early? Noah Hibbins-Hargraves is definitely one of those players. I think if we pass on him, the Dogs or the Hawks will take him and make him a really good player. Sam Grill, super pacey, really eye-catching midfielder, great leg speed, something we're lacking. Could be top 10, I'm just not sold on his ball use. Dyson Sharp, SA, big-bodied midfielder, one of, if not the best performing young players in this draft. He's been great. And a little bolter, Oscar Taylor. So he is a rebounding defender, not a position that we really need, but a really fun prospect. He's got good speed, good on that left boot. I could see him transitioning into a midfield or wing role in the AFL. We need more run on the outside, so he's moved up my range a little bit. But yeah, of those guys on the outside, the thing I've been thinking about lately is what happens if we get band 2 compensation for Draper. And our pick is not in the top 10, but pick 19, which would slide on the night. So we might not even have access to it depending on what happens with Adam Swade. But let's say we do. Let's say a club doesn't bid on Adam Swade until later, and we've got a chance to pick up another player with it. Of these guys, I think probably most of them are gone before it, but Oscar Taylor might be available, and honestly, Harley Barker is probably still up there. If the Bombers get banned 2, like, you can't complain too much because obviously you would rather ban 1 compensation, and I guess you could complain if the Adam Swade bid, if it gets eaten up in that's more the worry. But let's say the Adam Swade bid, forget about that. There is enough in that 15 to 20, 25 range, I think, for a late pick in the draft. There's quite a few players just on the outside. I'll probably make a video on that depending on what happens with the compensation, but that is all. That is my whiteboard for September. Probably a little bit early. I just wanted to not talk about Merrett for a day. Yeah, plenty more to come. Lots of draft videos and trade videos this week. I'm sure we'll be talking about Merrett in a day or two. And these whiteboards, it's going to change. I know there's only 1 game left with the draft season, but I'm going to be going back and watching plenty of footage and plenty of games to see just how I feel about all these guys. So this will be updated next month again. But thank you, Bomber fans, for watching. Make sure you like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, comment down below who is your favourite in this draft, and go Bombers.